What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the garage. I'm Brian, and as you can see, the 280Z is finally ready to get undercoated and primed. I have spent the last 2 days, probably 15 to 20 hours, stripping this thing by hand. And this has been by far the worst thing that I've done on the car. I thought last weekend scraping all of that undercoating off was bad. This is by far the worst thing. I know I am completely filthy. There is crap everywhere. It is just disgusting in here right now. But we are finally ready to start putting something on the bottom of this car so we can get it back on the ground, off the rotisserie for good. So if you guys have to do something like this, which I highly suggest you do not, if I ever do something like this again, the car will be dipped or sandblasted by somebody else. I am not doing this ever again. But if you want to save money and you've got time, it is definitely doable. As you can see, I've got this thing just about spotless. It's not perfect. You can't get in every little crevice. Like, this stuff is basically impossible to get in between here. You know, there's various areas. Back here, it's completely not possible unless you were blasting or something. So we got ways around that. I'll show you guys in a second. But what I found the best is the cleanup disc. You know, I don't even have a new one anymore to show you, but these 4.5-inch cleanup discs that go on your grinder, I start with those. That you want to get the bulk majority of everything off. You know, all of these surfaces here, anywhere you can get with that, that is what you want to do. You want to get as much with that because they take the most off with the least amount of effort. And then what I would do is I would swap to these 3-inch ones, still cleanup discs, on my die grinder, and get everywhere else that I couldn't reach with that because they're a lot smaller, and the die grinder is a lot smaller than the big grinder, so you could get it in a lot more areas. But that I couldn't get everything, so I would follow it up with this thing here, mini belt sander or finger file, or I don't know, there's a bunch of names for this thing. You can get this in a lot of areas. You just need to be careful because you don't want to start taking off a bunch of metal. You're just trying to get off all of the old undercoating, primer, whatever. I would also get in areas with some of these sanding discs that I've been using a ton on grinding down welds, because you can get right in tight areas, you know, like this. You can get right in there. And then I also found that these roll lock discs work well for the same thing, because you can get in there and you can use the side of it, you know, like this also. So the combination of all that stuff, I've got 99% of the surface stripped on the underside of the car. So now we are going to start coating the car. However, before we start laying down the epoxy primer, we got to take care of those areas where I couldn't clean up every last little bit, and some areas where there's some minor pitting, like up here, this minor pitting. There's no point in trying to do something about that. Definitely no point in trying to cut that out. Areas like that, areas where I just can't get in, like I showed you back here, like in here, these areas, it's just not possible unless you're dipping or blasting the car, as far as I can tell. So we're going to use something that I have already used in the past and I know works well, partly because I had to clean some of it off doing this, and it did not come off very well, especially compared to just the rattle can primer. So I'm confident that it'll work for what we need, and we need to lay it down before we put down the epoxy primer. So that would be this Eastwood Rust Encapsulator Plus. It is specifically made to coat areas like this where there's pitting, areas you can't get. It's great for at-home stuff in your garage, you know, non-professional setting, stuff you can't get because you can't dip the car or anything. So we're gonna go with that. We're gonna use this on all these areas, like around this seat bolt nut here, all of this stuff here where there's minor surface rust on it that I just can't get out. Any areas like that where there's even a concern that there may be some rust hidden underneath the epoxy primer once we lay it down. 2 coats of that. We're gonna let it sit overnight just because I don't have the time to get set up to actually get out the HVLP gun and build my booth and everything and fully clean up, because I obviously can't paint with all this dust all over the place. You know, just get kicked up into the paint, and we don't want that. So before we go and do that, we gotta wipe down the car with this paint prep. You have to do that to get off any oils and everything that's on the car from you touching it, from your tools, from the car just existing, you know. We're gonna do that, wipe it all down, and I have already wiped the whole car down with this red Scotch-Brite. Every surface on here, after I cleaned it, I went over by hand with this, just to make sure we got a nice rough surface that the primer can adhere to. I don't know if it was necessary because of everything that I did prepping it. You know, I would think that that stuff, I don't know, it kind of polished it. Anyways, I use this, and we should be good to go. Everything I've read is this red Scotch-Brite is good enough, especially for underneath the car. You know, we're not trying to make it show car worthy on the bottom side of the car. So we just need to get good, strong coverage. So I'm gonna wipe it down with some of that paint prep all stuff, and then we'll put a couple coats of the rust encapsulator on. Just that little bit, how much crap we've gotten off there. And I've already cleaned this once. You know, I've already wiped it down, blown it off with air, all that stuff. And for now, I'm only going to do the areas where I got to put some of the rust encapsulator on tonight. We'll wipe the whole thing down before we actually prime it tomorrow. And I will say that this stuff, you definitely want a respirator on. I know it's just spray paint, or kind of, it's in a rattle can, but it smells terrible. It cannot be good to breathe up. Definitely want a respirator and get some ventilation going. I got a fan up there in the window blowing out, and the door open over there, just a crack. So we got some ventilation in here. Definitely do that. But yeah, that's all we gotta do, just coat just the areas that we're worried about surface rust on. I don't think I mentioned this before, but I am only painting right now the stuff that I cannot get when the car is flipped over on the ground. So only the stuff underneath, like stuff like this here, can all be done with the car on its wheels. So we're not worrying about it right now. This is just the stuff that needs to get from underneath and needs undercoating. Alright guys, it's finally time to start spraying this with primer. So it's the next day. I let that stuff sit overnight. You can see everywhere that got covered with the rust encapsulator. Should be good to go. So we got to get set up. I was going to build a paint booth, you know, hang plastic all the way around the car, underneath the floor. That way we can try to keep the dust down. I'm not doing that for underneath though. I've changed my mind. We will do that when we do the top side of the car, because obviously we need to completely minimize the amount of dust at that point. However, it's not so important underneath. I mean, obviously we don't want a ton, but it's the bottom of the car. It's going to be undercoated, so we're not worried about surface smoothness or anything like that. So the plan right now is I have a box fan underneath the door. We're going to stick a furnace filter in front of the fan just to keep stuff from blowing out, you know, outside. It sticks to the filter, any of the paint fumes. We'll turn that on when we're ready to paint. I'll probably crack that window open over there. Although this garage is not even close to airtight, it's not insulated, nothing, so there should be plenty of air being pulled in if we didn't, but we're going to do that. I'm going to cover the important things like the toolbox so that they don't get overspray on them, anything else that I don't want overspray, and then we're going to wet the floor just to, because there's going to be dust down there anyway, and I don't want it spraying up and getting all over the car if we can help it. Again, it's not super important, but I still would like to minimize it if we can. So we're going to wet the floor down when we're ready to spray. That way dust gets attracted down there and sticks to it instead of blowing back up. Now, don't forget, I have never used an HVLP gun before. I've never used anything besides a rattle can. So this is a learning process for me. I've done a bunch of research on how to set the gun up and everything. So we should be good there. So what we've got over here is we got our plastic to protect stuff. I got a Tyvek suit. We got our primer and the two-part that we got to mix from Eastwood. So this is a black primer made for direct to metal, so we can put it right on that stuff right there. And the rust encapsulator can be painted right over just like anything else. We got the cheapest gun that you can get from Harbor Freight with some various stuff, moisture filter, I got a stand, cleaning stuff, filters. I bought this additional cup here for the gun, because it's got the mixing lines on it, I wasn't sure. Well, I need something to measure in, so yeah, we're gonna need to use that. Got some more of the furnace filters here. These you can just get for a few bucks at any hardware store. So the plan is, once we get to actually painting the top of the car, like I said, it's gonna be fully enclosed in a booth. I'll have one box fan on this end, sucking air in, and we'll have that one blowing air out, with furnace filters on both, just to keep the dust down. Again, I'm not doing that this time though, because I don't believe it's necessary. And it's a quite cold morning. I think it was 22 when I woke up at like 6 this morning. I have had this fire going for a while. It is blazing, and I've got it up to, it's 66 in here, but checking the surface of the car, you know, I'd like it a little warmer in here just because you can't paint when it's too cold. However, with 66 over there, over here near the fire, it's got to be closer to 75, and probably not 80, closer to 75 over here, I bet. But the surface of the car should be plenty warm enough. I mean, I got 78 degrees right here. The furthest away, we got 76 degrees, and that's gone up like 4 degrees in the past 10 minutes. So we are all set, I believe. Again, I have never done this before. It's probably not going to go perfect. Might get some runs, might not have the best coverage. My plan right now is 2 coats. We're going to do a coat just like it sits right now, and then we'll flip the car over, paint from the other side. That way, I believe it should help me get in all the little areas that you can't get at very easily. Because, you know, you got all of these areas you got to get in, all up under here, all in this stuff. I would imagine this HVLP gun would be easier to use and get in those areas than a rattle can. I don't know. So we are going to get started. I'm going to bust out all of this stuff. We'll get it all set up. We need to put our plastic on everywhere. Go get a couple buckets of water, so when we're ready to wet the floor, we will. And I think that's about it. Oh, I need to wipe the car down. Gotta wipe the car down again with this paint prep stuff, because it's gotten dust and who knows what else. I've touched it, you know, rolling the car over. So right before we're ready to paint, we'll wipe the car down again, and let's just see what happens. I will update you guys as I figure things out when I'm going, because again, this is going to be a learning process. Something I didn't mention last night though, these areas here, this is the shock mount for that massive rear bumper. Got the same one up there. Those are coming out. They are holding the car up right now. That's where I attached my rotisserie to. If I was to build that again, I would not do that because I didn't have the foresight to realize that I would not be able to paint in that area when I'm ready to. And I couldn't finish my rear bumper area. So this, I still need to work on this rear bumper area. It's definitely not done. It's all going to be smoothed out, holes filled, all that stuff. The rear bumper shocks are not going to be used. So I'm going to paint back here. Some of it's going to end up getting burnt off, grinded off, cut off. And I'm going to have to, once the car is flipped back over on its wheels, and I've done that, I'll have to paint from underneath a bit, which sucks, but there's no way around it at this point. So the container that comes with that gun does have marks on it, but these look way easier to read. So I'm going to go with this. Plus, it looks like it's got this little cap you can put in there in case you don't use it all. I don't know how long it can sit once it's mixed, but I don't know. We'll see. It looks a bit easier to use than this one, so we'll probably run with this one. And I got all this stuff at Harbor Freight, pretty cheap, everything except for the Eastwood products or the primer, paint thinner stuff. Pretty cheap, and it's my first time trying out a spray gun. It would be best to start off with something cheap and maybe kind of disposable, I don't know. But when we spray the car itself, I probably will upgrade guns. But we'll see how this one sprays. And I know there's different nozzle sizes, tip sizes, whatever. This comes with a 1.4. I have no idea what it means at this point. I hear people talking about different tip sizes, and we'll figure it all out eventually. But let's get plastic on everything, and then we'll be pretty much all set. All right, so I have wiped the car down. We're just about ready to go, but we need to mix our paint. I'm going to, because I don't know how much I need for one coat. I have no idea. I couldn't find a good solid answer somewhere. So we're gonna just fill this up. This is a 1-to-1 mix, so half of this, half of the activator. Let's mix that up real quick. All right, it took quite a bit to get this to mix up. It had separated quite a bit because I've had this for almost a year. I bought it sometime last winter so that I knew I would have it when I was ready. But we got it mixed up now, so let's mix it in our cup, I guess. Probably gonna make a mess here. All right, now that we're all ready to go, let's go try it out on a piece of cardboard first to set our spray pattern and just to try it out a little bit. By the way, I didn't mention it before, I did clean this gun where it was brand new. I ran some paint thinner through it to make sure you get, because it's got oils from manufacturing in there. So we cleaned that, and we're ready to go, I guess. I'll meet you guys outside. Okay, well, I apparently forgot to hit record, but we got the gun all set up. We got the regulator set at 30 PSI. We got the fan control all the way up, and this is the knob for adjusting how much paint comes out. The fan control determines the shape, either pointed or spread. What we're looking for is something like this, football shape, a little wider in the middle, pointed at the ends. If you put the fan control all the way down, it does a spot like that, which we don't want. It seems to work best with the fan control all the way open. And then I adjusted my amount to just where it looks good. Seems to get good coverage. Man, let's just go try it out. All right, it's time. I am quite nervous, but I think we can do it. Let's go throw some primer on and see what happens. I gotta get up in the wheel well first, which is gonna be quite hard, but we'll try it. All right, so where we're at now, I've gone through 1 cup of this. I don't know if that's normal. I have a feeling I'm putting it on too heavy, but let's just keep going. All right, there we go. First coat is on. Just some quick thoughts. It's very hard to get in all the little areas. Probably have runs. I probably put it on too thick. However, we have a coat on everything now. We have to wait 30 to 60 minutes for it to flash, and then we can do our second coat. I got to make sure it's 100% dry, because when we turn the car over, if there's any sand in it, which I'm sure there is, we don't want it to get stuck in the wet paint. Yeah, let's just see what happens, and I'll check back up with you guys when we're ready for the second coat. All right, boys, second coat time. And that was very, very hard to get the wheel wells. So what I've decided is I'm going to spray everything except for the wheel wells, maybe a little bit, but I'm going to do the wheel wells after. We're going to tip the car back down so it's 45 degrees this way. I think it'll make it a lot easier to get the wheel wells. So just a little bit more time, because we're going to have to wait for this second coat to dry. There we go. Let's wait for that to set up, and then we'll do the wheel wells. Everything's looking great. Let's get these wheel wells like I mentioned, and I'm also going to check underneath and see if there's any areas that I didn't really get good, depending on the angle, that I could get better now. But this should be it. Should be all we have to do.
Oh, there we go. We're all done. I did a little bit of touch-ups here and there. We got 2 coats at least on everything. So now we're going to let it sit, and then we'll come back and check it out and see if we missed any little spots, and we can touch them up then.
All right, guys, back out here the next day. I've let this sit overnight. Got the fire back going this morning, getting it warmed up out here, because hopefully I'm going to do some more painting today. The primer's all done, but we got some more painting and undercoating to do. Now, just some quick thoughts that I had from yesterday. Upon reflection, I actually had quite fun painting. It sucks getting in the little areas, you know, around all of the support stuff and, you know, brackets and everything. That sucks. But once you get to the flatter areas like the floor pans, it's actually very fun and satisfying to do that. After I started the initial first couple of passes at the back, you know, when I was really nervous, I realized it's not that hard to do. At least primer. I don't know if paint, and I've heard clear is much harder to do, but we're not doing that on the bottom anyway. But it makes me look forward to when we actually paint the outside of the car. Other than that, there's not a ton of overspray in here like I thought there would be. If you can see on the plastic here, there is some, but it's not like an insane amount. My garage is very dirty anyway, so, you know, from all the rust and everything we've been doing, the fabrication in here, so it probably just isn't as noticeable as if you had a nice clean garage. The floor is covered in paint, but remember we wetted that down. It doesn't appear to have stuck on the floor at all. If we brush it off, I mean, most of it's just dust. I mean, so overall, I'm happy with everything so far. I took a quick look, obviously, yesterday, and I took a peek underneath it just now. But let's turn the car back up on its side so we get a good look at everything, and we'll fully inspect underneath the car and see how we did. Gonna be honest, I am not seeing anywhere, at least at first glance, that didn't get coverage on it. So, very, very happy about the results of this. I don't even see any runs. It looks all nice and smooth here. It really makes my dent show up from when I pounded that out, the cat hump there. You know, because it's a nice uniform coating now. Makes that stuff show up. And look at all the wrinkles from the factory where they formed this sheet metal back here. That all got covered in, all the wrinkles get filled in with undercoating, but you really notice it right now. I mean, at the back we look good. I am very happy about this. I did see a run back here. Actually, it looks like we might be a little light on this back panel now that I look at it. Maybe not. Can't tell, it might be a little light on the back panel there, but don't forget, we gotta do a bunch of work back here because we gotta fill the bumper shock holes in and smooth this out like I mentioned. So if there's a little bit that needs to be done there, it's gonna get resprayed anyway from underneath. So overall, incredibly happy with the results. I did have one other thought. Cleaning that gun, I did not enjoy that. I don't know if maybe I had to refill the cup a couple times in the middle of painting, so I ended up getting, you know, stuff all over my gloves, got it all over the gun. I mean, it's not a big deal, right? But like this cap thing here, it's got a screen in it, and like I could not get any of the paint out of that. There's paint still in between there, like in between the screen and the top of the cap. So I don't know what's up with that. I might from now on go back to this, the one that came with it originally. It does have markings on it, although it's not as nice as this, and you can't take it off the gun. And where's my cap? And leave it like this. So, but this also seems like it would be easier to refill because you put your gun in here, put your paper filter up here, you know, these things here, little paint strainers, and refill it that way. So it seems like it might be easier to do during the middle of painting. Either that or I just put way too much on and I shouldn't need to refill it during painting. I don't know. Anybody knows? I said I'm a beginner to this, so if you guys got any tips or anything, let me know. I would super appreciate it. I did this mostly as a learning opportunity for when I get to painting the interior and the exterior of the car. I figured this is a great place to learn the basics of painting because if I mess anything up, runs and stuff like that, it's very low consequences. But anyways, yeah, leave me some tips on, and with using the HVLP gun, the fan control on that one didn't seem like it did a lot of adjustment unless you went all the way down. And as soon as you turned it off of all the way closed, so it was just doing one little pinpoint, it was wide open, it seemed like. I don't know if that's because it's a cheap gun. Maybe that's how it can't be how they normally run. So anyways, I mean, it worked fine. I had to put it down some to get in all these tight areas, and it actually worked quite well. I got good coverage in there, it looks. I made sure I took my time because those areas are the hardest, getting in and around everything. And another thing that I learned is if I was to start this process over again, as far as the painting itself or the priming, I would have picked up some brushable primer first to get in all these areas that are very hard to get with the spray gun, like in behind here, you know, up underneath this bracket here, up here. See, I didn't even actually get everything there. I'm gonna have to take some can of spray. I picked some up, but yeah, I would have done that to begin with. Just, I think it'd be a lot easier. You know, you could shove it down in here and everything. But anyways, you live and learn. I'll know that for next time. I'll probably use that technique on the interior because there's gonna be a lot of areas in there where you can't get to. And you know, it's the interior, it doesn't matter if it's the perfect finish. So anyways, well, I think I'm gonna end this video off here. I was gonna make this into just one video doing the undercoating and everything also, but it's gonna be way too long. So we're gonna split this into 2 videos. Next video will be seam sealing and undercoating the whole car. That'll be it. We'll be done with the underneath and ready to put it back on the ground after that. So make sure you guys come back for the next video also to see that. I really appreciate everybody that's been watching, commenting and everything. You know, we're building up a really good community here. Got a bunch of regular commenters and everything, and you know, I really appreciate everybody that takes the time out to watch the videos, and hopefully it's entertaining enough for you. Don't forget, we still got t-shirts available. I'll throw the link down below. You can pick some of them up, but come back for the next video. We'll finish this project off, get the undercoating done, and like I said, ready to put it back down on the ground. Hopefully I see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching.